Dr. Ethan Parker was feeling frustrated. As he drove his Jeep to go fishing, big raindrops began to hit the windshield. He had been excited about this trip for weeks, a chance to take a break from the stress of his busy life. But now, it seemed like even the rain was against him. Just my luck, he grumbled as he parked his car near the river. The dark clouds above promised a lot of rain, but Ethan was determined. He had driven 3 hours to get there, and he wasn't going to let a little rain ruin his trip. As he struggled to set up his tent, he couldn't shake thoughts of an argument he had with his wife, Samantha, before he left. Another fishing trip, she had said, tapping her perfectly manicured nails on the kitchen counter. Shouldn't you be focusing on your job instead of playing outside? We could use the money. Ethan didn't respond because this was an argument they had many times before. Samantha liked nice things, but Ethan, who worked as a doctor at the local hospital, didn't earn a lot of money. Ethan became a doctor to help people, not to get rich or famous. His boss, Dr. Ryan Caldwell, cared more about money and success. He always pushed Ethan to take on more important and better-paying cases, but Ethan preferred to do difficult surgeries that helped people, even if they didn't pay much. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder brought Ethan back to reality. He had finally set up the tent, but the rain was pouring down heavily now, turning the ground into mud. Soaked and frustrated, he climbed into the tent and sighed. So much for my relaxing trip, he said to himself. As he changed into dry clothes, he wondered if Samantha was right. Maybe he was wasting his time, but deep down, he knew he wasn't. These peaceful moments in nature helped him stay calm and reminded him why he became a doctor. As night fell and the rain continued, Ethan fell into a light sleep. He didn't know what woke him up, perhaps the rain getting quieter or some instinct inside him. But then he heard it, a scream, high and full of fear, cutting through the sound of the storm. "Hello?" Ethan called, unzipping the tent flap. "Is someone there?" Another scream answered him, this one closer. Ethan's heart raced as he peered through the rain. In the rough water of the river, he saw a small boat rocking back and forth. A figure inside was trying hard not to capsize. Without thinking, Ethan jumped into the water, swimming towards the boat. The water was freezing and the current was strong, but Ethan was a strong swimmer. As he got closer, he saw it was a young woman who looked very scared and was very pregnant. "Hold on!" Ethan shouted over the noise of the rain and wind. "I'm coming." The woman's eyes widened in fear as she cried, "Help me, please." Ethan reached the boat just as a big wave threatened to flip it. He grabbed the side of the boat and held it steady. "It's okay," Ethan said, trying to sound calm even though he was scared too. "I'm Ethan. I'm a doctor. I'm going to get you out of here. What's your name?" The woman was shivering. "Megan," she managed to say. "I can't swim," she added as she doubled over, gripping her belly. Ethan's heart sank. He could tell the baby was coming. "Okay, change of plans," he said quickly. "We need to get ashore together. When I say push, I need you to paddle with your hands as hard as you can. Can you do that for me, Megan?" She nodded, determination on her face despite the fear and pain. What followed was hard work. Ethan swam and pulled the boat against the strong current, and Megan paddled weakly but kept trying. After what felt like forever, Ethan's feet finally touched the muddy bottom of the river. With one last push, he pulled the boat to the shore, helping Megan out just in time. She collapsed onto the ground, and Ethan supported her as they made their way to his tent. "You did it," he gasped. "You're safe now." But another contraction made Megan cry out, and Ethan knew their troubles weren't over yet. "Easy does it," Ethan said gently as they crawled into the tent. It was cramped with both of them inside, but at least it was dry. Megan fell onto Ethan's sleeping bag, her face twisting in pain. "The baby is coming." "Oh no, it's too soon," she cried. Ethan felt worried. He was a surgeon, but he had only studied a little about delivering babies. "Megan, listen to me," he said, looking her in the eyes. "I know you're scared, but we can do this together, okay?" She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ethan took a deep breath and prepared to help Megan. "First, I need to check how far along you are," he said. "This might hurt a bit." As he examined her, he realized the baby was coming too fast. "You're doing great, Megan," he encouraged. "When the next contraction comes, I need you to push. Can you do that?" Megan nodded again, and when the next wave of pain hit, she pushed hard, crying out in effort. "That's it," I can see the head. Ethan coached her. One more big push. With a final, incredible effort, Megan pushed, and suddenly there was a tiny baby slipping into Ethan's hands. For a moment, everything felt still, and then the baby let out a loud cry that filled the tent. Ethan felt so happy he could burst. "It's a boy," he exclaimed, his voice shaking with joy. "Megan, you have a beautiful baby boy." He quickly cleaned the baby with a soft t-shirt and wrapped him in his warmest fleece blanket before placing him in Megan's arms. Megan looked down at her baby with wonder. "He's perfect," she whispered. "Thank you, Ethan. Thank you so much." As Ethan watched Megan with her baby, he felt a special kind of happiness wash over him. This was why he had become a doctor. Not for the money or fame, but for moments like this that were real and magical. Outside, the storm seemed to calm down, as if nature itself was celebrating the new life that had just arrived. In the quiet that followed, Megan shared her story. She told Ethan she had run away from her father, who drank too much and got angry. The baby's father, a boy named Jake, had promised to be with her, but left when things got hard. "I just panicked," Megan said, stroking her baby's soft head. "I thought I could cross the river to my aunt's house, but then the storm came, and well, you know the rest." Ethan listened, feeling sad for this brave girl who had been through so much. "You're not alone anymore, Megan," he said softly. "I'm going to take you to the maternity ward where a specialist will check on you. I'm a doctor, but I do a different kind of work. I think we did a good job here." As Ethan packed up his campsite, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. When he drove back to the city, Megan was dozing in the passenger seat, holding her baby close. Ethan drove carefully, thinking about how precious they were. As they neared the hospital, he started feeling uneasy. He hadn't called Samantha in nearly 2 days, and she was probably worried about him. As he parked his car in front of their big house, everything felt different. He was muddy and disheveled, and the perfect lawn looked like a different world. He took a deep breath and rehearsed what he would say to Samantha. He would apologize for not calling and explain about the storm and the baby's birth. Maybe this would be the moment they needed to reconnect. But when Ethan opened the front door, he knew something was wrong. The house was too quiet. In the entryway, he saw 2 expensive shoes he recognized all too well. His heart raced as he climbed the stairs and heard muffled voices coming from the master bedroom. When he opened the door, he saw the scene that broke his heart. There, tangled in the sheets, were his wife Samantha and his boss, Dr. Ryan Caldwell. Without saying a word, Ethan turned and walked out of the room. He could hear Samantha calling after him, but he didn't stop. He quickly packed some clothes into a bag and left the house. As he drove away, Ethan felt a strange mix of anger and relief, as if a heavy weight he didn't know he was carrying had been lifted off his shoulders. Ethan checked into a nearby hotel, his mind swirling with questions about what would happen next. As he lay in bed, one image kept coming back to him. Claire's face as she held her newborn son. She looked so happy and full of love that it made Ethan smile for the first time in years. Suddenly, he knew what he needed to do next. The hospital lights hummed softly as Ethan walked to the maternity ward. He hadn't slept much, his mind busy with thoughts of the past few days. The fishing trip, the rescue, the miracle of a new baby, and the end of his marriage. But as he neared Claire's room, he felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in a long time. He knocked gently and peeked around the door. "Claire, it's Ethan. Can I come in?" Her face lit up when she saw him. "Of course. Come in. We were just talking about you." Ethan sat down beside Claire, cradling her baby. She looked tired but beautiful, glowing with the joy of new motherhood. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "I'm sore," she admitted with a small smile, "but so happy." Her eyes sparkled as she gazed at her son. "I've decided to name him Ethan, after you." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "I'm honored, but you don't have to do that." "I want to," she said. "You saved us both. I'll never be able to thank you enough for that." Clearing his throat, Ethan felt shy about the praise. "Well, Ethan certainly looks healthy. Have the doctor said when you can go home?" Claire's smile faded a bit. "Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. They're discharging us today, but I don't know where to go. I can't go back to my father's, and I don't have anywhere else." Ethan leaned in closer, his decision crystallizing. "What if I came with you?" Her eyes widened in surprise. What? Ethan, no. I couldn't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering, he replied, taking a deep breath. I know it sounds crazy, but the truth is, I don't have anything holding me here anymore. My marriage is over, and I'm pretty sure I've lost my job. But in your village, I could really make a difference. You said there's no doctor there, right? Claire nodded slowly, her expression a mix of hope and disbelief. Yes, but Ethan, are you sure? This is a huge decision. You hardly know me, and life in Cedar Grove isn't exactly glamorous. Ethan laughed, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. Trust me, after the past few days, glamour is the last thing on my mind. I became a doctor to help real people, not just those who can afford fancy hospitals. This feels right. As he spoke, Ethan felt the truth of his words settle deep within him. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Ethan, I don't know what to say. This is more than I ever could have hoped for. Then don't say anything, Ethan replied with a gentle smile. Just let me help. We could figure out the details as we go. Just then, little Ethan began to fuss, and Claire soothed him automatically. Ethan watched in awe at the natural bond between mother and child. So, he said, feeling lighthearted for the first time in years, when do we leave for Cedar Grove? The old pickup truck rattled down the dusty road, kicking up clouds of dirt. Ethan glanced at Claire, who was cradling baby Ethan, her face a mix of anxiety and hope as familiar landmarks began to appear. There it is, she said softly as they crested a hill. Ethan slowed the truck to take in the view. The village was smaller than he had imagined, a cluster of weathered buildings nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forest. It was very different from the bustling city he had left behind, but there was a charm to its simplicity. As they drove down the main street, curious faces peeked out from shop windows and porches. News traveled fast in small towns, and Claire's return with a baby and a stranger would surely stir up some chatter. Claire directed him to a small, slightly run-down house on the outskirts of town. When they pulled into the driveway, the front door flew open, revealing a grizzled man in his 60s. That's my father, Claire whispered, tensing up. Ethan nodded, squeezing her hand for support before stepping out of the truck. Mr. Thompson, he called, approaching the older man with his hand extended. I'm Dr. Ethan Parker. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Charles Thompson, Claire's father, ignored Ethan's hand, his bloodshot eyes fixed on his daughter as she carefully took the baby from the truck. So, Charles growled, you've come crawling back, have you? And with the brat in tow, no less. Ethan felt Claire flinch beside him and made a quick decision. Stepping slightly in front of her, he met Charles's glare head-on. Mr. Thompson, I understand you're surprised and probably upset, but I want you to know that I'm here to support Claire and our son. Yes, our son. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I'm here to make things right. Charles's eyebrows shot up, and he looked back and forth between Ethan and Claire. Then, to Ethan's surprise, Charles let out a rough bark of laughter. Well, I'll be damned, he said, shaking his head. At least you've got more backbone than that good-for-nothing Jake. All right, come on in. Might as well hear the whole story. As they followed Charles into the house, Claire shot Ethan a look of gratitude and amazement. Ethan winked at her, feeling a surge of protectiveness he hadn't expected. The inside of the house was cluttered but clean, with faded family photos lining the walls. Charles gestured for them to sit at the kitchen table while he rummaged in the fridge, returning with a six-pack of beer. So, he said, cracking open a can, let's hear it. How'd a fancy city doctor end up with my Claire? Over the next hour, Ethan and Claire recounted their story, adding a few details to support Ethan's claim of being the father. As they spoke, Charles's tough exterior began to soften, especially when Claire placed baby Ethan in his arms. He's got the Thompson nose, that's for sure, Charles muttered, a hint of pride in his voice. By the time they finished, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the kitchen. Charles sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. Well, he said, I can't say I'm thrilled about how this all came about, but what's done is done. You two can stay here until you get on your feet. And you, he pointed at Ethan, had better make good on your promise to take care of them. Ethan nodded solemnly. You have my word, sir. Actually, I was hoping to talk to you about the village clinic. I heard you've been without a doctor for a while. Charles's eyes narrowed. That's right. Old Doc Miller retired last year, and we haven't been able to find a replacement. You offering? If you'll have me, Ethan replied, I may not know much about small-town life, but I'm a damn good doctor, and I'm ready to learn. A slow smile spread across Charles's weathered face. Well, he chuckled. Looks like Cedar Grove might have lucked out after all. Welcome aboard, Doc. That night, as Ethan helped Claire settle into her old room, he felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, he was exactly where he wanted to be. Over the following weeks, Ethan found himself immersed in the community, becoming a vital part of Cedar Grove. One chilly evening, as they sat by the fire, Claire leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. I can't believe how much has changed since we got here, she said softly. Ethan wrapped his arm around her, pulling her closer. It's been an adventure, that's for sure, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Claire smiled, looking up at him with warmth in her eyes. Neither would I. They shared a tender kiss, and Ethan knew he had finally found his true calling. Cedar Grove, with its simplicity and beauty, had become more than just a place to live. It had become home. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest, inspiring, and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.